So this week, a year ago, I arrived in the south of France to come and work with my husband as a stewardess on the yacht he's captained for the last 10 to 11 years. It was such a crazy time because just 1 month before the moment that I arrived here, we had no idea that this was about to happen for us. My husband had been sailing in France for the last few years, and I was based in South Africa running my coaching and wellness business from there. And we'd only gotten married. We only got married just over 2.5, 3 years ago. And when we first got together on the phone, our relationship started as a long distance one. And being apart is hard. From the moment we got on the phone, we did our best to be in contact daily by, being on the phone during downtime, and at night we would sleep on the phone together on video call. But still, being apart and living apart in a marriage physically is hard. We only got to see each other once or twice a year, and even then it wasn't for long. It was like 2 weeks at a time. And so when the stewardess on the yacht had resigned, and my husband had to come up with solutions within just 4 weeks because the summer sailing season in the Med was starting, when we spoke that weekend, he came up with an idea and said, well, one of the things I thought about is, what if you came to be the stewardess on the yacht this season? And even though I had a whole lot of stuff happening in life for me at home in South Africa, including taking care of our 2 dogs and our home and running my coaching practice, just the idea of actually being able to live and work together was something really enticing for us. And so I said yes immediately. And it's interesting because in that month, so much came together really quickly in ways that is hard to explain if you try to apply logic to it. And so it really was what I like to call the divine hand of the universe involved, the divine hand of God playing a part in this experience for us. Because one of my favorite quotes from Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, when I first read that book 20 years ago, that quote hit me really hard, the statement, and he says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with how I ended up being a stewardess on a yacht alongside my husband at the age of now 51. Because I quickly had to set a couple of things in place. My husband had to get the go-ahead from the owner that I could come and be the stewardess on the yacht for the season. And after a conversation, he did get a yes. And then I had to find a caretaker to come and look after our 2 dogs, Marshall and Puppy, at home in their environment, because we didn't want to rehome them or send them to kennels. And so we got the guy who'd been the caretaker of our property and looking after our garden to come back to live with us again and to look after the dogs. And so with those 2 things in place, I could then progress the rest of the process, which included needing to get certain certifications to come across as a stewardess. And one of it was to get a seaman's book from SAMHSA, the South African Maritime Authority. And to get that book, I had to do 2 things. One was do an ENG1 medical test, which is a test to prove that you're fit to be at sea. And then I had to do a personal survival techniques course. So I did both of those and got the documentation in place, then submitted my details to SAMHSA to get my seaman's book. And they told me this process could take up to 3 weeks. Well, this is where I feel like the divine hand of the universe working in the background worked for me, was because even though they said it would take 3 weeks, during my appointment, I expressed the urgency of the nature of this, which I'm sure everybody does. But if you'll believe it, I got my seaman's book 3 days later. And with my Siemens book in hand, I could then do my visa application process, which is also quite an intensive process. There's a whole bunch of formal documentation you have to put in place to get a business Siemens visa, which is what I was going to come across on. And my husband supplied all the documentation relating to the yacht and where it's based and all of that. I got an employment contract from the owner, a letter of invitation. And with all of this, I did my online application on Copago, the French visa embassy agency in South Africa, and requested an appointment date. And they had given me an appointment for the 5th of June. And my husband had already pre-booked my flight to come to France on the 30th of May, because I was meant to be in France by the end of May. So I knew that this appointment was too late. Anyway, I kept trying to get hold of them and said, look, if you can get me in on an early appointment, if there are any cancellations, please can you fit me in? Well, around the 22nd of May, I actually got a call from them. They had an appointment date on the 29th of May. And knowing that my flight was booked for the next day, I thought, like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work to get my visa within one day, but I'm just going to trust that if this experience is meant for us to do, that it will work out. And so I went to that appointment. Everything went really smoothly. And I asked them as well if they could do anything to help expedite this a bit faster, because I needed to fly out the next day. And she said, look, the best you can do is just have faith. If this is meant for you to be on that flight tomorrow, then maybe it'll be. Otherwise, be on standby to postpone your flight for at least a week or two. But you know, that day I left the appointment just feeling like this is going to happen. And so I went home and packed my bags. I just did my part in the process, feeling like I'm going to be on standby and be ready as if it might happen. I spent the afternoon and the evening with my dogs, spending as much time with them as I could. They'd already been told that I might be going off for a few months, and our caretaker had moved in to come and take care of them at home, and so things were already set up. Well, that night we went to bed, and the next morning we got up, we did our usual thing, woke up early, walked around the garden, spent time outside. And at 11:30 that morning, I got a text message from Copago saying my passport had arrived back at the embassy because my visa was approved. So I very quickly packed up the rest of my things, got ready, and within 2 or 3 hours, by 2:30, I was saying goodbye to the dogs at the door and on my way to OR Tambo International Airport to take my flight to France via Dubai. And I arrived in France and was reunited with my husband. Really special for us because we hadn't seen each other for quite a few months. And then I arrived in this beautiful port where the yacht is based, got on board, familiarized myself with the settings of this beautiful catamaran that's owned by a private family. And the very next morning, within a few hours of me arriving, we set sail for Italy. And that is how my first season as a stewardess on the yacht started. Here's the interesting thing, the reason I'm sharing this story is because I do believe that when we truly commit to the feeling, the desire that we have, if we put our energy behind it in a beautiful, positive, open way, without restricting it, just allowing what is meant to unfold, just to allow that if it is meant for you, it will come through. And if it's not meant for you, it won't happen. And that's okay too, but to accept that too. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to share that story today because so much can change in not just a year, because mine is a year ago, this week I arrived here, but so much can change in a day, from 1 hour to the next, one moment to the next, one conversation to the next. But it does require us to be fully connected into ourselves, truly check in with ourselves. Is this something that is right for me? Does this feel like something I want? And what am I going to do on my end to help it along, while trusting the divine universe to play its part? So that's really my share today, is an encouragement. If there's some dream waiting to happen in the background, if there's some opportunity that feels like this is different, this is quite unusual, but it's attractive to me. There's something about that energy, if it attracts you, and to not just work with it, to do your part, but to play with it in the lightness of all the possibilities that exist out there. What if this one is meant for me, and let me see how it unfolds. So that is my message, and I'm going to do another little video about what my first season was like, because in just 1 year, when I arrived here, literally green as an underripe green apple, to where I am now and what I'm feeling in terms of confidence around my work as a stewardess. It is just so different, and how we as people can evolve if we allow ourselves to adapt to new situations, new environments, and infinite possibilities await on the other side. So anyway, this is me. I'm not in uniform because we don't have anyone on board, so we're just doing some maintenance and some cleaning and prep on the yacht and restock and turnover. But literally a decade ago, I would not be wearing a pair of shorts, barefoot, and a t-shirt for work. And yet right now I'm at work, and this is what I get to do. And literally just opposite me, where I'm looking this way, is a beautiful chateau and a beach less than 10 meters from me. And this is, life can change in many ways. And it's just about perhaps allowing ourselves to flow with the experiences that are on our path. Big love from me. I hope to see you next time.